Gabe and I have been traveling for 2 years now, and this place has been the hardest for some reason to kind of settle into, which is wild. It's not that it's not nice, it's actually, on the other hand, it's stunning. Where we're at is an island called Florianopolis in Brazil. It's in the southern part of Brazil, and it's the perfect town. There's a big airport. The people are so nice. Like, there's Wi-Fi everywhere you go. The places to stay at the apartment buildings are very modern. It has good prices. There's gyms, tons of things to do. Like, it's a good place. So I don't know why it's taken so long to kind of just like settle down and feel like in our own little bubble in a way. This town, which I'm going to get into because Brazilians have literally yelled at me already for calling it like a little island. It's not little, it's a big island, but even by saying island, some of them are like, it's the largest in the state, like in Santa Catarina, which is where it's located. And I'm like, yes, but it's still an island. So bear with me while I call it the island. You guys know what I mean. So this island, what I've been saying, it's like, it's perfect for people that are into the Tulum vibes, but like the previous Tulum vibe, like yoga, surf, like wokeness in a way. Everyone here for some reason has tattoos. Everyone, when you're walking around, everyone has tattoos. Everyone's kind of like hippie style, like super woke. Everyone's just like on the same vibe. That's the vibe that we're getting. So definitely, if Tulum is your vibe, this is a 10 times, 1,000 times better version of Tulum because you have roads that are paved. Uber works here. There's not the taxi mafia that you have in Tulum. Like, all the apartments are super nice. Like Tulum, Tulum does have really, really nice apartments. There's tons of things to do. The beach here, like Tulum just has one beach. Here you have, I think it's over 49 different beaches because you're on an island. So literally anywhere you go on an island has a different beach, and each beach kind of has like its own little characteristics. Like, some are for surfers, some are for laying down, some are for fishermen, some are for sunsets. Like, there's a beach for everything. And I have to say, Brazilians are very, very welcoming. As somebody that has traveled to different countries, there are some countries where it's not like they aren't welcoming. They're just not like going out of their way to make you feel at home. Here, for some reason, like, they are very, very welcoming. Even though I do have to say, it is so weird when you think you know a language, but you don't actually know a language. So obviously, as somebody who speaks Spanish, any Spanish person, I think, swears that they speak Portuguese. And especially, I think, if you're like overconfident in a language, for some reason, I swear I can speak Portuguese until somebody starts talking and I'm just kind of like, huh? Like, if it's outside of like, hola, tudo bom, and like the basic things, I'm kind of like slow down a little. It's so funny. But they are very, very welcoming, and everybody will ask, like, where are you from? Blah, blah. Like, here in specific on the island, there's a ton of people from Argentina and Uruguay. So off the bat, like, they're already used to like the Argentina. So they're like, Argentina. And I'm like, nope. But yeah, they are very, very welcoming. And luckily, we've always had very, very welcoming hosts in Airbnbs. We always stay in Airbnbs. But this time, I don't know. And I say that I'm really good at finding Airbnbs because I really, really think I've narrowed it down. Like, my hack is to filter. Airbnb has like this thing where you put guest favorites. So automatically, that means it has to have like a 4.8 or higher ranking, which just saves you a ton of time. But then my ultimate hack is filtering by king bed. And you know that if you get to a place and the person has a king bed, like, it's the type of host that isn't skimping out on the little details. Like, they have good decor, it smells good. The towels are usually very like plush, like the blankets, the pillows. It's just a nice environment. Like, 9.8 out of 10 times that has been the case. The 0.2 has been here in Brazil. And it's not here. It's not in this Airbnb where I'm at right now. It was in the previous Airbnb. And for some reason, I just felt like the apartment was a bit too woke for us. I don't know what it was about the apartment. The lady, the host, was incredibly, incredibly nice, like everyone here, very woke vibes, yoga, everything. And it did have a king bed, but for some reason, I just kind of got distracted. And this is so, so, so big. When you are looking on Airbnb, or honestly planning any type of vacation, and especially picking like a hotel, I know we can get distracted by like the amenities and like, oh, this is so beautiful. Like, just imagine the pictures here, like outside in the balcony with the hammock, with the lights. Like, it looked so perfect, so good that when I was swiping through, I never really kind of just like looked at the room pictures and kind of just like zoomed into them, because if I would have zoomed, I would have noticed right next to the bed there was a huge poster, and nothing wrong with this at all. It's just, it wasn't my vibe. Huge poster with like all the yoga poses, but like I'm talking huge, huge, huge poster. And then in front of the bed, there was just like a ton of books, obviously in Portuguese, which I can't understand, but by looking at the titles, one was kind of like talking to the divine and like interstellar communication, things like that, where I'm just kind of like, uh, you know what I mean? And then the decor, like I'm not picky with the decor, and usually 9.8 out of 10 times in an Airbnb, it's very not basic decor, but just like minimal, like fits everyone, you know? Here it was just very like yoga, like this, that, like, and honestly, nothing against it, but when there's just so much of it, and I think it's coming from a place of like the unknown. Like if I knew what it was for, then okay, but just like thousands of crystals. And trust me, I love crystals. Like I'm trying to understand more of how they work and the science behind it. And like one or two, beautiful, but thousands everywhere. I'm kind of like, oh, like what is this for? You know, like it's the vibe. And it's not like we're spending a weekend there. No, when we book an Airbnb, we spend a whole month in the Airbnb. So off the bat, when I put my things down and I started walking around the Airbnb, I was like, oh, oh, what's this? What's this? What's this? And I was kind of like, oh my God, did I get catfished? And it wasn't bad catfish. Like the house was beautiful. On the outside, this house was stunning. I have to say, like the prettiest house on the entire, not even block, like on the whole avenue, the prettiest house from the outside. You're like at the best location. You have a lake in front. You have tons of amenities like included in the Airbnb. We had paddle boards, this, that, like tons of things, but just like inside the house, it just wasn't my vibe. And it's not that it was bad, not at all. The Airbnb actually has a 4.9 rating. And after leaving, I was going through the reviews and I'm like, maybe somebody left a review and like maybe somebody thinks the same way that I did. Maybe somebody just like the vibe wasn't there. None at all. There was like 20 something Airbnb reviews, all of them outstanding, like amazing. I love this place. And I'm like, you know, maybe it was just me. Like me personally, I didn't click with the spot, and that is completely okay. But that is part of my experience. And I also think part of what made it so funny for me, because at first I was like, okay. But off the bat, I was like, you know, just like little tiny things. And one of the big things that I realized is that, gosh, I am definitely a sun child. Like the apartment, like the house, for some reason, just did not get any natural sunlight. So during the day, it was like pitch black inside. And I was like, I need to leave. Like it just starts like itching, like I need sun. I need to leave the apartment. Because anyways, on top of that, for some reason, I don't know if it's the season that we decided to come to Brazil in, because obviously Brazil is on the other side of the equator, so everything kind of switched. It's like winter isn't when winter is, so it's not in December. That's opposite. You know what I mean? So here, winter is the June, July, August months, and then summer is December, January, February. So obviously it's like switched around. I'm in Brazil right now in April, and I don't know if it's the season or if this is something completely happening out of nowhere, but it's been storming. It's been pounding, like floods all over, kind of like those tiki-talkies that we're seeing about Dubai, like the streets flooded. Well, basically the same exact thing is happening here. And on top of that, like me being a sun child, I'm like, you know what? Let's just go outside. So we go outside, it's storming. We've gotten creative with like all the little things that we're doing, like activities. We've checked out every single mall here on the island. We went to the movie theater. We even did like the massage chairs at the mall, because what else are you going to do when it's storming on an island in Brazil? Anyways, the mall's 10 out of 10. Definitely a great place if you are somebody that loves shopping. But one of these days we were riding our bikes, because it wasn't storming. It was the days after the huge storms. And it was just kind of like a sprinkle, like a drizzle. So we're like, okay, let's ride our bikes out. And we decided to go to this steak carniceria place where I was like, Brazilian picanha, like this is going to be great. So we get out there, we are eating, blah, blah. And for some reason, whenever we even attempt to say a word in Portuguese off the bat, people are like, where are you from? Like, I'm trying my best out here to sound native, and they're like, where are you from? And this is something that for some reason, not only I, but Gabe and I, both of us have just like struggled deciding where we're going to say that we're from. So I was born in Colombia, but I grew up in the US. Like my whole life, I've lived in the US. I've always used it like to my advantage. Whenever I wanted to say Colombia, like I wanted to be like, ooh, spicy Colombian, then I'd be like, Colombia. Whenever I'm like, no, like, gotta say like, I'm from the US. So forever ago, like that has been my whole life. I juggle between the two. I use it for my advantage. But now traveling the world, it's like, I haven't been in the States for 2 years. I've never lived in Colombia. And this is the funny part, because when you're traveling, then people start asking you questions where it's like, and then like if they ask me like what city, I'm like, Bogota, and they're like this and this. And I'm like what part, like what region are you from? I'm like, gosh, like I've never lived there. Like I left when I was 4. And then, like where else are we going to say that we're from? But it's really funny because as you travel more and more, like people are also travelers. So the questions just kind of get deeper. And then that's when you're like, where do I say that I'm from? And Gabe is from Venezuela. And for some reason, this is just something that I think all Venezuelans experience. But whenever he's like Venezuela, it's kind of like this pity party starts, and we get it. Like Gabe gets it. I get it. Like obviously the country has gone through terrible, terrible things, but it's just like you have to deal with half an hour of like, oh. We actually had to deal with it here. We were checking out a gym because whenever we get to a city, like that's one of the first things we do. We check out the gyms, and I said Colombia, blah, blah, blah. I said asking questions, and Gabe said Venezuela. 30 minutes in, and then at like the guy was just the sweetest thing, but at the end he's like, come on, like God's gonna bless Venezuela. We're like, okay, bye. He's like, Venezuela, like we got this. It's just like the funniest experience, and we're kind of just like, okay. And just moments like that where even in Colombia, I was like, okay, like where am I gonna say that I'm from? Because even in Colombia, like they're obviously Colombians, so it would be like people closer to where I was born. So they ask even more questions. And I was genuinely like, we were one day like walking down the beach, and I was genuinely like, Gabe, like, where should we say that we're from? Like, I am down to say that we're from Aruba, like where, Panama, like where should, like a random place. And then we're like, oh gosh, but what if like we pick those random places, and then, those moments happen where that person knows anything about that place, and what are we going to say? Like Aruba, and what place in Aruba? We've never been to Aruba. Like, what are we going to say? So that is a struggle that we've had and that we continue to have as we travel more and more. So if I start saying random places of where I'm from, it might just happen. It's not to say that I am not proud to be either Colombian or from the States, not at all. It's just, I haven't been there in a really long time. And when people start to ask questions, I'm just kind of like, Anyway, so we get there. We're at the steak place, and then the guy is like, where are you guys from? And I'm like, Colombia, blah, blah. We start talking because the guy is from Argentina, like a really fun guy. And then this other guy comes out like super happy, like typical Latin vibes. And he's like, no, Colombia, like great, I'm from Venezuela. And Gabe's like, oh, I'm from Venezuela too. So like automatically they hit it off. This guy was like the funniest guy ever. We're talking, blah, blah, like obviously there are waiters are like serving us, and it's funny because they're just there, both of them are talking to us, and like all the other employees are like, hello, like get back to work. We're just having like really good conversations. We're talking about the beach, like he's giving us recommendations, like all kinds of things, like the vibes are flowing. And then out of nowhere he was like, yeah, so let's go to the beach. There's these things here that are called cogumelos, mushrooms, and you just take one at the beach and it's this vibe. Our faces with Gabe, we were just kind of like, like everything was going great until he's like, no, like let's meet up at the beach, the mushrooms, this. I was like, yeah, we're like, yeah, we'll call you, definitely, we'll stay in touch. But the funniest thing is that everywhere in Brazil, whenever you're eating, like obviously he was talking about a different type of mushrooms, but everywhere in Brazil, it's like very common, especially here because there's a lot of vegetarians. Like this, island is huge, huge, huge. Like you always have vegetarian options. So everything is cogumelos. And I remember he's like, yeah, like you could find them anywhere, like on the corner, like anywhere. I remember we were in this very like woke, like healthy supermarket kind of thing. And I saw like the coolest mushrooms, just like very odd shaped. Like I don't know, just not like the normal like portobello mushrooms. So I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, I remember I showed them to Gabe. I was like, whoa, these look so cool. And then on the ride home, which actually even gets worse, on the ride home, I couldn't stop laughing because I was thinking like, which ones are like the like like the happy mushrooms and which ones are just like the regular mushrooms? Like how do you know like if you're just gonna eat the regular mushroom from the supermarket or from what he's saying? So anyways, we did not end up getting in contact with our new friend. We continued on with our night and we're biking back home. Keep in mind that when we were on our way, it was just drizzling. On the way back, it's storming, and this was one day after it had been storming for like 3-4 days. So I'm talking puddles everywhere, and we're biking back. Like off the bat, as soon as I got on the bike, cars passed by, a bus passed by, and I felt like those scenes in the movies where you're just on your bike and psh, like automatic, like the first minute, and I'm like, this is gonna be great because we had about a 15-minute bike ride back, 15 to 20 minute actually bike ride back home. So I'm like, this is going to be great. Like, let's just embrace it. Like, I'm going to get soaking wet. And I'm biking back. I'm laughing in my mind, like the cocomelos, the guys, like it's just funny vibe. We're coming back. Keep in mind, puddles, like the cars, it was like all the way higher than the tires. So keep in mind on the bike, which I actually thought was really cool. A bike, I was like, is this bike going to tip over in the water? Nope. You guys, if you're ever pedaling through a puddle, bikes can take it. I don't know if my bike that we got from our Airbnb is like a dirt bike, a street bike. I have no idea. But for some reason, that bike can go through huge, huge, huge puddles. What I was not expecting was that so we were kind of like trying to be on the sidewalk, even though we have no idea where the sidewalk is, where the road is. We were on the sidewalk, and I know because we've biked through this road many, many times. Like I knew there was a hole, but I wasn't really thinking about it. Gabe was going first. I was going second. He went through perfect, fine, through the puddles, like psh, side by side. Like, okay, I'm going through, and boom, I fall in the hole of my bike. Like it's storming, it's puddling. And I was just like, there was a moment where it was like so much rain, like so much from like the cars passing by. Hello, 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 hello. I guess the story was getting too good because the camera overheated, but we're back. So like I was saying, I'm there and it had just been like, I was freezing. At this point, I am soaked. Like the rain is coming down straight in my face. The cars are going by. Like even though they're trying to be very careful, I do have to admit that people were very, very kind, like being super, super careful. Like you would still get soaking wet. And I had just fallen. I didn't actually like get off the bike. I was able to put my feet down in the puddle and just like, just like stumble in the huge hole that was on the sidewalk. And there was a moment where I was like, I don't know if I should laugh or cry. I felt like I was laughing. Like I was just like, this is like, what a funny experience. But there was just like a tear that rolled down at this moment where I was like, I'm freezing. Like this is like, what is going on? Who decided it would be a great idea to do a bike ride in the middle of a storm? Anyways, I remember I kept going. I was behind Gabe. And after I was like, okay, come on, girl, like pick it up, like this tear cannot keep rolling down. I was behind Gabe. Gabe was always in front, and I just started dying laughing. And at this point, like we were getting a lot closer to the house, and I was like, I will remember this story for years to come. I just remember like I was shaking, I was laughing. What an experience. But anyways, we did not get in contact with our mushroom guy. And it's just, there was a point where when we were talking, where I was like, this is so cool. Like we have a friend, like, he's also Spanish. Like we can talk, we can understand each other. Like he looked like a really fun vibe. Like now I understand it might have been a bit too fun for what we're used to. But it's just a thing that like when you're traveling, it's so hard to make friends. Like how does one make friends? I know for a lot of people, they usually stay in like co-livings or hostels or places like that where like it's just a lot easier because you're under a roof with other people, which is honestly like we would be super down to do it. We've stayed in Salinas, which are a great place. They're like a co-living and co-work around the world where in places like that, like you actually do meet people. Like always, of course, you have to go out of your way and kind of be social to make friends, but it's just a lot easier than when you're staying in an Airbnb. Like luckily we have each other, but even then, like we'd love to make friends in Brazil. And I remember I was talking to him, I was like, oh, this is gonna be so much fun. And then when he pulled that on, he's like, yeah, like we go to the beach every week. I just remember like inside I was like, what, like maybe we're just, not super compatible. So while it was raining, we just had to get creative. So a lot of what we did was just eat. Like when it rains, even when it's sunny out, like a lot of what we do while we're traveling is eat. But of course, if it's raining, we'll eat even more because that's what you do. Like you go from Uber. Uber works here on the island super, super well. I don't know why we had decided to do bike rides on that day. We should have taken an Uber. But if we would have taken an Uber, then we wouldn't have this amazing story that I have now in my heart forever of when I fell into the hole. Anyways, we Ubered to a lot of malls because that's what you do. And then to a lot of food marketplaces. Like there's a ton here on the island for some reason, just like those places where it's like a food hall is the word that I was looking for. There's just a ton of restaurants like underneath one roof, and then you can like choose different things. They have live music, like great things, great vibe. So we went to one because Gabe had found one and it was like a sushi place. And this was the day we did a hike. Now, I have to say that on the island, there are tons of things to do, like especially if you're a nature lover. And like I mentioned, the whole vibe here is kind of like surf, yogis, things like that. So there's beaches everywhere, but on top of that, there's hikes everywhere. Like there are tons of hikes everywhere you look here on the island. So I was like, okay, I am entering my hiking era because I have always wanted to be like a hiking girl. So the day before we get to the sushi place, which is like another story that I will forever have in my heart, So we're hiking, we get to this place, and for some reason, I don't know if it's because I grew up in Florida where we don't really have hikes. If anything, we just have like the little pathways that you like go through to get to the beach. But like hiking just wasn't like a thing that none of my friends were doing like when we were growing up. Like it's not around in Florida. So I had never really been like a hiking girl. So I'm trying to get into my hiking era. Like I put on like my leggings because I did not want to get bit by anything. And we go out to this waterfall hike. Now we get there and there are two paths. And Gabe goes, let's do this one. And I'm like, okay, I had already researched. Like I knew everything about this hike. There was waterfalls along the way. Everyone was like, this is an easy peasy level hike. Like it takes 20 minutes to get to the waterfall. I'm like, okay. So we're going down this path and there's no one. There is absolutely no one. And everything that I had read online was like, there are people, like you're always going to see people. This place is packed. There's no one on this hike. And my biggest fear when it comes to hiking is that we are going to take a wrong turn. We are going to get stranded and then nobody is ever going to find us. That is my biggest irrational fear. And of course, like a big animal is going to pop out and eat us. Very irrational, but those are my fears. So we're walking through this hike. There's absolutely no one. We're more than 20 minutes in. And I just kind of start to feel like I'm sweating. My heart is like pulsating. And I'm just like, love, like this, it's not this way. Like we need to turn around. He goes, let's just keep going. Like, let's see where this takes us. I was like, okay, we got this. 30 seconds. I think I lasted 30 seconds until I was like, no, that's it. I'm turning around. We turn around. And then when we got back to the intersection, at this point, I was like, whew, I was hauling through that hike. Like, and it wasn't an easy hike. Like it was leveled easy, but it's not like a straight path. No, like you're going up rocks. Like you have to be careful. You have to watch where you're going. Like it had taken a while to get to where we were. On the way back, I was like, I'm ready. Like I just wanted to get back to like a main point intersection where like at the entrance I had seen people, but this whole way like I hadn't seen anybody. So we get back there and then we see people coming from the other side. I was like, love, it was definitely the other side. So we go through the other side again, not I don't know why it's leveled easy because you're going up rocks. Like there are little tiny waterfalls throughout the way, obviously, because like, the waterfall, and then there's little waterfalls along the way. You have to literally like jump from rock to rock if you don't want to get like your feet soaking wet in this water. So it's not that easy, I have to say, but there were people here, and of course you would just follow the water, and it just started getting better and better. And there was a point where obviously when we got back to the intersection, Gabe's like, it's okay, like, let's leave. And I'm like, no, like, I got this. I really want to see the waterfall. That's why we ended up going back. And we did find it, and it was absolutely stunning. Like, there were people jumping off because obviously you could climb the rocks and then go way at the top and jump from there. Like, astonishing, amazing. Obviously, we were super sweaty and kind of gross. And we took an Uber, we pulled up to this beautiful food hall, and we go to this place that Gabe had chosen for sushi. And of course, we get there, they're talking, we're like, we're like, and we looked at the menu, and everything was in Portuguese, to the point where I remember I took a picture with Google Translate, because this is a super hack. Whenever you are in another country and you have no idea what's on the menu, just take a picture with Google Translate or at the supermarket, and it'll translate like the labels, anything on food products, the whole menu to your language. I do this a lot, especially I remember in Croatia when I was picking chicken, like the chicken was very similar to the duck. And I remember I was always like, ooh, let me make sure I'm getting chicken. So I would always snap a picture, make sure it translated to chicken, and then put it in the cart. So I had taken a picture of the menu, blah, blah. And Gabe ordered a passion fruit sushi, and I ordered a truffle sushi because I am obsessed with truffle. Anything truffle, I'm like, that's the one I'll get. Truffle and sushi, I had never ever tried it, and I was like, that's the one for me. We paid, blah, blah, and Gabe goes to get, like, they dinged us on those little beepers. Gabe goes to get it, and when I see him walking back, it was a beautiful, like, incredibly decorated plate, like, astonishing, like, amazing, and then two rolls on each plate. He's coming back, and he has his face, and I looked at it, and we just looked at each other, like, when you like just make that eye contact, and we just bursted out laughing, like, is this it? And keep in mind that, like, we had paid like a normal, like, you would think like a roll, like, it's not like we paid $2. I think in total we paid like $18 for 2 sushi rolls each. Like, I'm not talking about roll, no, like 1 piece, 2 piece each, like a beautiful plate with 2 pieces each. And we're just kind of like staring at each other. And Gabe goes, this better be the best thing that I have ever tasted in my life. And I'm just like dying laughing. Keep in mind that we're super sweaty, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, let's give it a try. We try it, and Gabe's face is like, oh, okay, I tried it. I have to say, as much as I wanted to be like, this isn't the best thing in my life, it was the best thing in my life. To the point that this day, I would go back just for those 2 little pieces of truffle, both the truffle and, because we switched, we did 1 each. The truffle and the passion fruit were amazing, like amazing. The freshest sushi, like the most interesting combination of flavors that my mouth has tasted. 100% worth it, but it was definitely like, I just remember our faces. It was just like the most priceless moment, things that happen while you're traveling. And gosh, I mean, when you're traveling, I know it can't just be me. Like, the funniest things happen. It's always like, there's just thousands of stories to tell. And it's also in part why I love documenting, like taking all my little videos, posting it on Instagram, just like those day in the lives, just like documenting, because there's so much that's happening in like so little time that most of the times I know that when we look back and think of like memories, like, of course you're going to remember those big moments. Like, you're always going to remember the day that you got proposed to, the day that something really big happened, but it's just in like those tiny little memories of like random days that like you look back and it's just like the best memories. I know that, for example, when Instagram sends me like those on this day videos, and I look back and it's like when Gabe and I were in Orlando living in our, I think it was 800 feet studio. Like, it was the first time that we were living together. It's like where we moved out to. And it's just like videos that I have of us making like pancakes in the morning, or documenting like the things that we were doing as we were growing our agency. Like it's just the best videos to watch back. That is in part why I love sharing and like remembering all those stories and taking videos of absolutely everything, because there are moments that, gosh, there are moments that are great. There are also moments that they really, really, really humble you. So normally, whenever we're traveling, either the Airbnb, I would say five, like it's half and half. 5 out of 10 times they have a washer and dryer, or just washer, because a lot of the countries around the world don't use dryers. Like we've gotten totally used to like drying our clothes on clothing racks. That is super, super normal. And so 5 out of 10 times the place will have a washer and we'll wash at home. Then 5 out of 10 times it won't have, and we'll just find the closest laundry place and we'll drop it off. And it's actually a great, great hack because it comes back nicely folded. Like sometimes it's even like ironed, which we have never done in life. Like I don't know how to work an iron. I have never ironed clothes, so it's actually a plus. But in the Airbnb we were staying in, right next to the house, there was a laundry place. We're used to like, you drop it off, you pick it up, like they'll normally like write your name down and that's it. Here, I think this is probably like one of the most humbling moments I've had in a while now. Because you get there with your laundry, right? And then somebody sorts through every single little thing that you're dropping off, right? Like normally like people will just take your bag and blah, blah. Like we even have like a laundry bag that we'll just take to each place. No, no, no. Here they'll dump it, and the person in front of you, like in the middle of the center of the store, they're handpicking through your bra, your thong, your boxers, like Gabe's boxers, pants, like bikinis. They're literally hand picking through everything and sorting it, because in this laundry in specific, they count each item and they write it down, like bras 2, panties 7, like every little thing. And you're just standing there as these girls are counting and sorting through your clothes. And it's not like they're like, no, no. The most humbling moment. I had to do it about 2, 3 times, and then I sent Gabe in. I remember I was outside on the bike waiting for him to come out. He comes out and he goes, "What kind of process is this?" She goes 2 miles per hour, like sorting through it. I was dying laughing. I was like, I've been telling you, this is the most humbling moment. Just picture it, like you're just standing there, right? And normally, like, I don't know about you guys, but when we put things in the laundry, like you just like take off your clothes and you just like, you're not just like organizing it. So she's literally like taking like the sock out of the pant, like one sock here. Like it is the most humbling moment when you're just there like, okay. But besides that, there have been no more humbling moments, other than of course like when you're trying to speak and then they're just kind of like, and then you're just kind of like and the funniest thing is that I really try, like I try to sound like a native. I'm like, hola to the bomb, like blah blah, and they obviously know that it's not perfect. But Gabe just doesn't even try. One day we were in an Uber and the guy goes, derecha o izquierda, or something like that in his accent. And Gabe goes, derecha. I'm like, he's literally telling you the word, like just pronounce it how he's pronouncing it. Derecha. I'm like, okay. But the people are super, super nice. And this island, like I said, it's absolutely stunning. Even if people online are literally in the comments, there's a TikTok that I posted and I'm like, oh, like a day in the island, they're going off like an island, like it's a big city, like we have 600 million something, blah blah. Like if this isn't a big city, what is a big city? I'm like, Rio is a big city. But anyways, it is a big island. But the coolest part about this island is that it's so big that there are little like neighborhoods, but actually not neighborhoods, cities like inside the island. And there's so many cool ones. So like, for example, if you come, I highly, highly recommend staying in the Campeche, Novo Campeche area, because everything is just like super walkable. There's great gyms, like super luxe places to stay at. Like people here are very, very nice. You have great beaches, but then you also have like down, I think my second favorite would actually be at the north end of the island. It's called Jurere. It's also super, super nice. It's actually, I feel like it's a bit like more fancy family, like luxury house style than here. Here it's a bit like more like younger crowd, like more like modern apartments. There it's like luxe, like big house, family vacation type of thing. But that area is also very, very cool. And then the other two areas I think would be obviously the center. You have really cool things. And the center is where you have a bridge that communicates and connects the island to mainland Brazil. And then where the Salina is. So a huge hack that I think we've always done as we travel is picking places where Salina is, where Outside is, which is another company that has like co-livings and co-workings, because obviously if they've made a whole place there for remote workers, digital nomads, like full-time travelers, it's because it's usually a good place. So the Salina here is located around Praia Mole, which is a really big beach for surfers. And I think it's a great area. It's just kind of like secluded. There's a ton of lagoons and other things, but it's just like another area there. Overall, those are like the main spots of the island. It's been a 10 out of 10, even though it has been the place that has taken a bit longer to kind of settle into. It's so good that we actually decided to extend and spend 2 months here. But it's just life when traveling. Like there are some places where you automatically click and it's like right off the bat you feel at home. But there are other places that do take a little, even though they have literally all the checks that you're looking for. No place is perfect. Like no place is 100% perfect. Every place in the world has its pros and cons, but that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of traveling, and that's the best part in creating these wild and fun and just like humbling moments while traveling. At the end of the day, it is getting my full recommendation and definitely a place that I recommend everyone to check out. So stay tuned for the Florianopolis travel guide. Bye-bye.